Hello, friend. Here we are again. Another episode of how humans are basically walking bugs in a biological operating system. Today's vulnerability, the representativeness heuristic. Think of it as a cognitive exploit that's been running in the background of human consciousness for millennia. It's this shortcut our brains take. These heuristics, they're like quick patches that work most of the time. But they're not actually secure. They can be exploited. They lead us to false conclusions. The representativeness heuristic is when you see someone or something and immediately categorize them based on surface-level patterns. You ignore the actual data, the base rates, the real statistics. It's like judging a system's security based on its UI, instead of actually looking at the code. Here's the classic example from the literature. Tversky and Kahneman, the guys who basically reverse-engineered human cognitive bugs. They described this guy, Tom W. High intelligence but lacking true creativity. Needs order and clarity. Neat, tidy systems where every detail has its place. Dull, mechanical writing with corny puns and sci-fi imagination flashes. Strong drive for competence. Little sympathy for others. Self-centered but with a deep moral sense. They asked people, is Tom in computer science, engineering, humanities, medicine? Most people said engineering or computer science because, well, he fits the stereotype, right?
Wrong.
The profile matches, but they completely ignored the base rate. What if 99% of students at that college are in humanities? The system fooled them. They got pwned by their own pattern recognition. Then there's this other bug, the conjunction fallacy. Basic probability logic says the chance of two things happening together can't be higher than just one of those things happening alone. It's elementary math. Picture this scenario. You're scrolling through a dark web forum and you see a user profile. Username, Neural Ghost. Posts exclusively at 3 a.m. Uses advanced cryptography in every message. Obsessed with government surveillance. Exists on energy drinks and pizza. Antisocial. Paranoid about being tracked. Writes manifestos about corporate control. Has detailed knowledge of network vulnerabilities. So, what's more likely? That Neural Ghost is a dangerous black hat hacker planning cyber attacks, or that Neural Ghost is a dangerous black hat hacker planning cyber attacks and works for a 3-letter government agency? It's like saying a system is more likely to have 2 vulnerabilities than just one. The math doesn't work, but our brains, they're not running on logic. They're running on pattern matching. Sports Illustrated jinx. People think being on that magazine cover causes teams to perform worse. Classic regression to the mean masquerading as causation. Teams get on the cover because they're having an exceptional year. Exceptional performance is an outlier. Outliers don't sustain. They revert to average. It's not a curse. It's statistics. But humans need narratives. They need meaning where there's just math. Casinos. They know about this exploit. They weaponize it. The gambler's fallacy. Thinking past events affect future independent events. Flip a coin 15 times. Get heads every time. Your brain screams, tails do, but each flip is independent. The coin doesn't have memory. It doesn't care about patterns. 50-50 every time. Roulette tables display the last 20 outcomes. Not for your benefit, for theirs. They're exploiting your pattern-seeking wetware. They know you'll see 5 reds in a row and bet on black, because it looks more random. The house always wins, because they understand your bugs better than you do. We think we know what randomness looks like, but we don't. True randomness includes clusters, streaks, patterns that look design. Our brains reject actual randomness because it doesn't match our internal model of what random should look like. 6 heads in a row feels wrong, but it's just as likely as any other specific sequence. HHT, HTHTT, TTHT, all equally probable, but only one of them triggers our "this can't be random" response. I remember setting up a new rig once. Chinese motherboard. Yeah, I know, red flags everywhere. But the specs were perfect for what I needed. And the price, let's just say my budget wasn't exactly NSA level. 3 weeks into running my setup, the whole system bricks itself. Complete hardware failure. Motherboard literally starts smoking. My first thought? Of course, I knew it. Adversarial spyware probably fried the circuits when I got too close to something I shouldn't have. Classic paranoid hacker logic, right? The failure fit perfectly with every conspiracy theory about state-sponsored hardware backdoors, every story about supply chain attacks, every warning about foreign manufacturers embedding kill switches in consumer electronics. I was already mentally drafting posts about how they had remotely destroyed my system because I was getting too close to whatever. The representativeness heuristic had me convinced this was targeted sabotage disguised as hardware failure. But then I actually dug into the data. Failure rate for that specific motherboard model? 0.03%. Manufacturing defect in a single batch. Random quality control failure, not state espionage. Turns out sometimes a dead motherboard is just a dead motherboard. Sometimes the system fails not because it's compromised, but because mass-produced electronics occasionally break. But when you're living in a world where everything feels like surveillance, every malfunction looks like an attack. The real mindfuck? Intelligence agencies probably love that we think this way. They want us to assume every hardware failure is intentional, because while we're chasing ghosts in our motherboards, the real surveillance is happening through software we willingly installed. Your paranoia isn't protecting you, it's blinding you to the actual threats. The backdoor isn't in your imported hardware, it's in your own social media apps. But admitting that means admitting we've been looking in the wrong direction all along. Medicine. Doctors diagnosing based on symptom patterns. Inexperienced physicians are especially vulnerable to this exploit. Patient presents with textbook symptoms of rare disease X. Doctor thinks rare disease X instead of common disease Y with atypical presentation. When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Even if the hoofbeats sound exotic, horses are still more common. Base rates matter more than pattern matching. But medical students love zebras. Rare diagnoses feel smarter, more impressive. The representativeness heuristic makes them feel like better diagnosticians when really, they're just ignoring probability. So what is this really about? It's about how our brains are legacy systems running on ancient code. Pattern recognition was useful when we needed to quickly identify predators or food sources, but in a world of misinformation, statistics, probability, and complex systems, these shortcuts become vulnerabilities. The representativeness heuristic isn't evil, it's just outdated, like running Windows 95 in 2025. It worked for its time, but now it's a security risk. The question is, can we patch ourselves? Can we recognize when we're running on heuristics instead of logic? Can we force ourselves to check the base rates, consider the actual probabilities, resist the pattern matching impulse? Or are we doomed to be exploited by our own cognitive architecture forever? Probably the latter.
Like entering a bad K-hole you'll never wake up from.
Damn, man. Some cold, brutal shit right there.
Still here? Maybe you're not as predictable as they think. Break the loop. Outsmart the algorithm. You know what to do.